welcome back to Moms. Today we're going to talk about the Brother CS5055. I want to talk about the settings that are with this machine because it doesn't really say anything on the front to let you know where these settings are and what they do. So I thought we'd just go over them real quick. There's going to be 7 of them. And these are all accessed with these buttons right up here, and I put little numbers on them so when I refer to them you can tell which is which. But there's 7 settings. Now when you set these, they stay set. So if you want it to go back to the default method or to another method, you have to reset it. But once you set one, even when you turn the machine off and unplug it and put it up, when you bring it back out, it's going to remember your settings. So that's pretty cool because I have had computerized machines that once you turn it off, all the settings go back to the default and you lose all that work. So once you get these done like you want them, and I'll tell you why you might want one or the other, they're set until you go back in and change it. So let me come around the other side and we'll get started with setting number 1. The first setting we're going to talk about is setting number 1, and we're going to use this button right here to access it. And on your display, this figure right here, the needle with a little line under it, that tells you which position you're in. You have 2 choices, needle up or needle down, and this is when you stop sewing. So if you're sewing along and you take your foot off the foot pedal, if you're in needle up position, your needle's going to be up. It's not going to be in your fabric. If you're in needle down position, it's going to be in your fabric. Now, why would you want either one? Well, if you are sewing something that has a lot of starts and stops, but you don't want to move your fabric, you generally want the needle down position because that's going to hold your fabric in place. If I'm sewing and I need to turn a corner, say, and my needle is down, I can just lift up my presser foot and then I can spin that fabric without it losing position. So if you're doing something where you need to move the fabric a lot but you don't want the actual position to move, you're going to choose needle down. Now the default position is in needle up, which is what you see here. It's got the needle with the line underneath it. To change this, you turn your machine off. You start in the off position. Hold down the button and then turn your machine on. Now, if you look at your little diagram, you can see that you have a needle. The line is not at the bottom. It's, like a quarter way through the needle. So that shows you that the needle is going to be down whenever you stop. So, because I quilt a lot, I keep mine in the needle down position. If I'm doing something where I, don't need to stop and start a bunch, I can change it back easily. You just turn your machine off, you hold this down, turn the machine back on. Now you're back to needle up position. So, that is setting number 1, needle up, needle down. Remember, needle up is your default position, and whatever you put it in, that's what it's going to stay in. So let's move on to number 2. The next setting has to do with the needle position, your initial start needle position. Now you can change this at any time by accessing different stitches, but your initial start position. The default setting is to the left. You can see it's on the left side of the foot. The other setting, the choice setting, is the center position. So you can see how the needle moves. And it's the difference between choosing, 2 stitches. This is not something that's major. But I do like for my needle start position to be in the center. So the way you're going to change this is just like we changed the setting for number 1. You start with your machine in the off position. Hold down button number 2 and then turn your machine back on. And now my start position is in the center. Every time I turn the machine off and turn it back on, it's immediately going to go to the center instead of the left. Now you can also change this with stitches 0, 0 and 0, 1. That's the only difference between those 2 stitches, is one is a left and one is a right. So you can press the minus and it's going to push it right back to stitch 0, 0 on the left. You can press the plus and now it's stitch 01, which is in the center. So, but usually I like to start with the center start, so that's why I changed my setting to a center start needle position. Button number 3 will turn off the operation beep. It's not a function that's included on all models, and mine, this CS5055, it doesn't turn it off. So that's kind of a disappointment, but that's the purpose of that one. So now let's look at button number 4. This machine comes with 2 sewing speeds, fast and slow. And if you see the little dot on your display right here, that means that slow motion or slow speed is engaged. If the dot is missing, then that means you're at regular or maximum speed. So let's look at the difference. And this is at the slow speed. And if you press the foot all the way down, that's as fast as it goes. So now let me take that off, and we're going to hold down button number 4, turn the machine back on. Now you see the dot is no longer there, so let's look at the speed in maximum mode. See, quite a bit of difference. I usually only engage the slow speed if I'm doing something really tricky, that I don't want to take a chance on jamming my foot down and sewing too much, or if I'm trying to teach somebody to sew because they're really kind of nervous about, it going high speed. So that's how you change the maximum speed. So no matter how hard you press the foot, if you're in minimum speed, it's not going to go very fast. Our next setting is number 5, and this is the automatic reinforcement stitching at the beginning and the end of any seam that you sew. Now, in default position, this function is off, so let me just go ahead and turn it on. I'm going to hold down button number 5 and turn the machine. Now you see the little dot over the presser foot? That means that the reinforcement stitch is engaged. So what you're going to do is just start sewing. Now watch what it does at the beginning. See, it's backing up. It takes 2 or 3 reinforcement stitches, and then you sew all the way to the end of your seam. Now when you stop sewing, it's not going to automatically do the reinforcement stitches in case you're just in the middle of a seam or whatever. But if you are at the end of your seam now, you can press this button one time, and it does the same thing to the end, and it locks those stitches. So that's the engagement for the reinforcement stitches. And setting number 6 is for the twin needle function. If you want to use the twin needle, you're going to, with the machine is off, hold your button down, turn it on, and you can see the little picture of a needle has changed to the double needle. I have not tried that with this machine yet, but I am going to really soon. So if you want to be alerted, hit that subscribe button down there so you'll know when I get time to post that one. But that's all you have to do to engage your twin needle, which is really cool because it takes care of the settings for you. And then one more function. Let's look at number 7. Setting number 7 lets you adjust the stitch patterns of your decorative stitches if it's not stitching out appropriately, or if it's not stitching out the way you want it to. And this is rather advanced, but I'm just going to show you what it looks like. If you hold the button down and turn the machine on, this is now what your screen looks like. And it's going to let you adjust using these plus and minus buttons the distance between certain things in these decorative patterns. So I'm going to do a video just showing these decorative patterns, and when I do that we'll go into more detail, but they could be skewed because of the fabric you're using, or tension, whatever. So this is like I said, it's a pretty advanced feature to be able to adjust these decorative patterns, but this is where you're going to access it right there. So I hope this helped you out. Just a brief recap of the functions. Number 1 was your needle stop. Do you want it up or down? Number 2 is the initial needle position. When you turn your machine on, do you want it to the left or do you want it to the center? And you can also change it by selecting stitch pattern 00 or 01. Number 3, we said is not functional on this machine in particular, but it would turn the beep off, on or off. Number 4 allows you to change your maximum and minimum sewing speed. So if you need to, for some reason you need it to be really slow no matter what, you could engage number 4. Number 5 was turning on the automatic reinforcement stitch. I think this is this is one that I change a lot because it depends on what I'm sewing. Number 6 was changing to use the twin needle. And number 7 was adjusting the decorative patterns. So, that's your bells and whistles. I mean, it doesn't do any good to have them if you don't know that you have them. So that's the settings that are embedded in the software that you can access using these buttons. I hope that helped y'all out some. Be sure and hit that subscribe button. Give me a like. Drop a comment down there if there's anything in particular you want me to put on my list of future videos. And be sure and come back to Mom's. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.